Somewhere along the way, a quiet thing broke in America, and most of the people carrying it have no name for what it is. You've likely felt it. Morning comes. The commute happens. The tasks get done. But under all that motion, something has gone still. It isn't grief. It isn't a crisis. The body keeps clocking in. The face keeps appearing on the calls. Yet the caring slipped out at some point, and you can't say when. Here's what few people will tell you straight. This is not a flaw in your character. It's not weakness. It's not laziness or a lack of gratitude. It's what a certain kind of system produces on purpose. A system that profits when you feel nothing. Now, hold on, because that word gets abused. People throw around system to sell you fear and a subscription. I'm not handing you a shadowy council of villains. Nobody in a back room is choosing your mood. The truth is duller and much stickier than that. A few industries, each chasing its own margin. A pile of figures that stack against you over time. And one quiet idea, planted so smoothly you'll swear it was your own. The idea that this is all too large. That your small moves change nothing. Sell you that idea, and the machine keeps humming. That idea is the whole product. So over the next half hour, I'll take you through the mechanics. The figures nobody ever stacks in one place. The clinical name for the fog you're in. And the piece these videos leave out. What a person can actually do. Ride with me. It comes into focus faster than you'd guess. Begin with size. Each of these lands in a headline on its own, weeks apart. One report here, another study there. They never get set beside each other, so let's do that. Something like half of everyone working in this country has checked out on the quiet. No exit interview. No 2 weeks notice. The trying just stopped while the seat stayed warm and the effort bled away. 54% of American adults describe feeling cut off from the people nearby. 90% call the nation's mental health a genuine emergency. Shopper confidence just sank to a depth not seen in 46 years. And each year, deaths of despair claim 264,000 Americans. Not illness, the quiet caving in of a reason to go on. Let that land. 264,000 human beings every year. No disease behind it, just meaning gone missing. None of that is noise in the data. None of it is a fringe case. As of 2026, this is the ordinary weather of American life. And there's a word for it that hardly anyone knows. Most of the people it describes have never once heard it. The word is languishing. It broke into the open in April of 2021. An organizational psychologist, Adam Grant, put a name to it in a column. The piece ran in the New York Times. That year, nothing else the paper published drew more readers. Not because it shouted, because it hit the mark. Grant reached for a family image to explain it. Languishing, he said, is the child in the middle. Nobody thinks to check on. Sit with that a moment. It lives in the gap between two states you can already name. Set it next to depression. Depression flattens your capacity to function at all. Languishing lets you keep going. That's exactly the snare. Set it next to burnout. Burnout is your life asking more than your reserves can pay. Languishing makes no demand whatsoever, and it isn't anxiety. Anxiety is a mind looping through threats it can't switch off. Languishing is stiller, hollowed out. Its well-being simply absent. Purpose worn away in slow scrapes. A person coming loose from their own life, even as that life runs right on schedule. Bring to mind the last free Saturday you had. Nothing owed. No clock. Nowhere anyone needed you. And a person asks what you'd like to do. The real reply, the one you swallowed, came out flat. Nothing pulled at you. And the strange thing was that the lack of pull didn't even sting. Those two blanks felt like one and the same. This runs deeper than a rough day. Deeper than being worn out. It's a recognized state. Half the country lives inside it, under every wrong name there is. And here's where I part ways with the usual telling. When Grant first wrote it up, he pitched it as a passing thing. A reaction to lockdowns. A stretch we'd walk out of once doors reopened. Then the doors reopened. And it didn't pass. It settled deeper. It reached further. What started as a response to one emergency hardened into the new normal. The numbers that came after put words to what people already carried without language for it. The American Psychological Association ran its Stress in America read in 2025. 54% of adults reported feeling isolated. 50% said they felt shut out. Reopening didn't cool those figures. They rose. Gallup pegged the share of workers who feel engaged at their jobs at just 33%. Turn that over. 2 and free punch and daily and register nothing. No loathing. No fire. A blank. Bodies there, attention gone. Then in 2026, a study on psychological safety drew from staff at over 100,000 firms. 88 million lives in the sample. It came down to a single question. Does the job hold any meaning for the person doing it? For 2 out of 3 American workers, the honest answer was no. Here's the piece that slips past most people. The checking out didn't stay penned inside the workplace. It couldn't. And that's the turn where this gets heavier. A brain that dims itself at work doesn't keep a spare set of wiring for the evening. One circuit runs the whole show. When the reward channel dims at your desk, it doesn't switch back on at home. The dullness rides with you. It seeps into supper, into your days off, into whatever used to feel like it belonged to you. You can trace it nationwide if you know the tells. In 1999, 7 in 10 Americans went to church. By 2024, that had fallen to 45%. The meeting halls, the clubs, the neighborhood groups all sit at record lows. In the last national vote, 88 million people stayed home. Births per family have dropped to the lowest mark the country has ever logged. And leisure spending dropped. The money set aside purely for fun shrank across every big category, from 2019 through 2025. Now, in fairness, some of you will bristle at that one. Maybe your park is jammed on weekends. Maybe your trail sees more boots than ever. Alright, the claim isn't that every American quit every pastime. The claim is a direction of the whole. Taken together, the tug toward the things we used to chase has gone slack. And here's what the usual version botches. This isn't a nation bored with living. Scroll the replies under any video like this and it's right there. Nobody's bored. They're spent. They're sick of grinding harder each year for a smaller slice. That's a different diagnosis altogether. And it rewrites what comes next. Let me be plain about who's caught in this. It reaches well past the young and cash-strapped. It's the 2-income home that earns well and still hits zero by month's end. It's the person who did every single thing the script told them to. Put money away. Grind. Stay loyal. Keep quiet. They followed all of it, and the floor kept dropping out from under them anyway. When you play it straight and still lose ground, the flatness that follows isn't a defect. It's a reading on a gauge. Your body is signaling that the bargain quit being fair. 3 specific engines drive this. The first works on your brain. The second works on your wallet. The third got tagged formally as a public health emergency. We'll walk each one. Engine 1. Your reward system got outbid. For nearly all of human time, the biggest jolt of pleasure on offer was modest. Tracking down food after a long hunt. Thawing out beside a fire when the cold bit deep. In brain terms, those lifted dopamine roughly 50 to 100% over its resting level. That was the ceiling. Your wiring was set for it. Then across roughly 3 decades, 4 industries shattered that ceiling. They drive dopamine up 150%. Now and then, 500. And they pipe it right where you live. Your pocket. Your cupboard. Your medicine shelf. Your phone. Your brain was never in the running. Tuned for fire in a full belly, it got set down at a slot machine. Which is fitting. The feeds run on the very same lever that pins people to those machines. The term is variable ratio reinforcement. The payoff isn't what grips you. Not knowing when it lands is what grips you. A brain lights up harder betting on a maybe than banking a certainty. So you lift the phone to see whether anyone replied, and a small charge fires. Not on reading the reply, on the reach itself. The reaching is the hit. The typical American reaches for that phone 96 times a day. Now, food. Ultra-processed products supply 58% of the calories a typical adult eats in a day. They're tuned to strike the spot food scientists label bliss. That precise ratio of sugar and fat and salt that talks your off switch out of firing. And the makers spend heavily to keep those products living rent-free in your head, morning to night. Now betting. A 2018 Supreme Court ruling scrapped the national ban on wagering through sportsbooks. What followed was straightforward. The guts of a slot machine slid into an app in every pocket in the land. On sports alone, Americans staked north of $120 billion in a single year, 2023. Now opioids. Lab-built molecules that swamp reward centers at intensities nothing in nature approaches. Overdoses have killed 700,000 Americans since 1999. For anyone from 18 to 45, fentanyl now takes more lives than any other single cause. Here's what stitches all four together. It isn't just that they deliver a high. It's that they push up the cost of feeling anything at all. The brain scientists have a term: downregulation. Flood the system with these turbocharged rewards long enough. It answers by pulling its own dopamine receptors offline. The floor sinks. What it takes to feel a spark climbs. And what used to land stops landing. A real talk. A walk outdoors. A plate you cooked yourself. None of it clears a new floor. They read as nothing. The clinical label is anhedonia. The loss of any pleasure in what once delivered it. Not a funk. Not an attitude. A change in the machinery. And roughly 330 million Americans are hauling some dose of it to work and back. And no council of plotters engineered this. 4 industries chased profit, and that was enough. That's just engine 1. A second runs alongside it, and it bites harder. Engine 2. Staying afloat is devouring the part of you that thinks. Biology has a phrase for it: allostatic load. It's the tab your body runs up when the stress alarm never fully powers down. In a normal week, that alarm rings for a threat and quiets once it clears. But when the squeeze never eases, the alarm stays lit. What that yields isn't some dramatic crack up. It's a slow bleed. Your range of feelings shrinks. Curiosity and hope thin by the week. You end up upright, but not really alive. The lower 60% of this country lives under that exact weight, and the figures behind it are exact. Household credit card balances now total $1.252 trillion. The going rate on that debt is 23.79%. That's the steepest the Federal Reserve has ever logged. 111 million Americans can't clear their balance in a given month. Run it. Say you carry $6,000, right around the typical load. Make the minimum, and out of every $120, $119 vanish into interest. A single dollar reaches the debt itself. You hand over $120 a month to knock $1 off the thing you owe. That isn't retiring alone. That's feeding a meter that never fills. And if you know the specific ache, hear me. The payment goes out and the balance sits there, barely budged. You aren't imagining it. That's the machine performing to spec. No plot behind it. Just a rate, being a rate. But here's the turn that changes the whole picture. A figure stacked against you can be flipped to face the other way. The same arithmetic that pins you down can loosen its grip, one call at a time. Nobody sits you down to teach that. The outfits banking on your minimum payment prefer it hidden. Still, the lever is real, and it starts modest. Then, if you let it, it snowballs in your favor instead of theirs. That's the quiet good news, hiding under all the bad. What's grinding you down is mechanical, and anything mechanical can be run backward. Not in a night, and not in one leap, but on purpose. Everything else I say sits on top of that. And the card is only the start. A gallon of gas runs $4.55. Groceries have climbed north of 25% since 2020. A one-bedroom rental in a big city market now runs past $1,700 a month. Family health coverage tops $24,000 a year. Daycare lands somewhere between $15,000 and $25,000. Total household borrowing just set a record $18.19 trillion. and the savings rate is stuck at 4%. Nothing in reserve. No slack. No give for a single surprise. Every incoming dollar is claimed before it even arrives. Look at that list again and notice the shape of it. It isn't one line gone bad. It's every line drifting the wrong way at the same moment. Rent, food, coverage, and debt all rising while the paycheck holds dead still. This is what the replies keep circling. People aren't begging for luxury. They're asking why a full week of work no longer buys an ordinary life. It's not a grudge talking. It's math, and the math came undone. Here's the part most coverage walks right past. Each of those figures is more than a money problem. Each one is a levy on your thinking. And that levy is what's quietly siphoning off your life. A team spanning Harvard and Princeton turned up something that belongs above the fold. Being short on money doesn't only leave you poorer. It leaves you thinking worse. The strain of juggling too little is heavy. Which bill clears this time? Is there fuel for Friday? What gets cut loose this month? That constant strain whops something like 13 to 14 points off your working intelligence. The same toll as a night with no sleep, or a couple of drinks in your system. Except this one doesn't lift by morning. 45% of American households can't cover the month. That's near 150 million people paying a levy nobody assigned and nobody lifts. Here's the price in a single life. Picture a man, call him Marcus, 34. He's in logistics. The job pays $52,000 a year. Weekends, used to paint. Nothing grand. Just watercolors, a thing that was his alone. He'd ring up old friends on a Sunday. On his phone, he kept a running list of places he meant to see one day. Then, 3 years back, a single hospital bill erased his savings. The car balances swelled after that. Rent rose and his car needed work he couldn't fully swing. Now Sunday is a budget sheet. Shuffling figures, scavenging for $20 he can set aside. He's quit painting and he'll say it's for lack of time. But that's not it. The stretch of his mind that once reached for a brush has been requisitioned. It now runs a single loop. Which bill keeps the power on this week? The love of painting didn't die off. It got crowded out. Survival math ate it, $1 at a time. Nothing was left for anything that doesn't keep a light on. Marcus is no outlier. He's the middle of the pack. And that's the thing that makes it so easy to miss. There's no siren. It looks like a plain weekday. You might be somewhere inside this right now with no word for it. That's the whole trick. It lives out in the open, dressed as a nothing week. Take a breath, because the third engine is the one that binds the other two. Engine 3. And it isn't quite loneliness. It's a harder thing to mend. In 2023, the US Surgeon General put out a formal warning about isolation. Not because it stinks. Because it's lethal. The warning found that close to half of American adults live with isolation you can actually measure. Somewhere near 165 million of them. And the bodily cost is concrete. Isolation lifts your odds of heart disease by 29%, of stroke by 32%, of dementia later in life by 50%. On sheer survival, the drag matches a 15 cigarette a day habit. Half the country. 15 cigarettes, and not one warning label in sight. But that advisory leaned on an assumption that may have quietly expired. It took for granted that people still want the company. That clue the obstacles, and they'll go find one another. The evidence says otherwise. When people talk about their social lives now, plenty aren't describing a connection they can't get to. They're describing the fading of any urge to want it. That's a different beast entirely. Plain loneliness behaves like thirst. It bites, you find water. It fades. What's spreading now goes by another name. Social anhedonia. There's no thirst at all. Picturing a call to a friend brings fatigue, not longing. A get-together brings a sinking feeling, not a lift. Not out of dislike for anyone. Because the circuitry that once made human contact feel good has been ground flat. Worn down by nonstop stress, by a fire hose of information, by a digital stand-in for closeness that carries none of the actual biology. And the tallies confirm it. Since 1990, the share of Americans with zero close friends has quadrupled, from 3% to 12%. The slice with 10 or more slid the other way, from 33% down to 13%. Among single men, 1 in 5 names no close friend whatsoever. And it doesn't spare the old. Give the older folks a listen for a second. People who put in 40 years, brought up kids, built something with their hands. Plenty will tell you, low and even, that home feels like the only safe place now. That they've just switched off. That the racket outside takes more than it hands back. One man who spent his life recording music said the line that stopped me cold. The music doesn't move him anymore. That's not sloth. That's a reward system finally run dry after decades of being asked for more and given less. And there's an even sharper cut at the tail end of a working life. People who spent 40 years aiming at a retirement the numbers no longer cover. The nest egg comes up short now and they watch a fixed income thin while every price around them lifts. The safety they were promised keeps sliding out of reach year on year. So the same flatness lowers over them for the very reason it lowers over the young. The deal they signed didn't keep its half. Meanwhile, the average person spends 2 hours and 31 minutes a day inside social media. That a constant cue that connection is underway while the real event never happens. A hell gaze wakes the mirror neuron system. Nearness releases oxytocin. 2 people laughing together lock their heartbeats in step. A screen carries none of that across. But the brain takes the contact cue from the app and rules the need met, so it quits pushing you out the door toward the genuine article. You're not alone for lack of anyone. You're alone because something talked you into believing your people are already found. And the spots where you once found them have emptied out. A sociologist, Robert Putnam, caught the leading edge of this back in 2000 in a book titled Bowling Alone. Civic life, he showed, had been thinning since the 60s. It's only kept sliding since. Church going, 7 in 10, down to fewer than half. Union rolls, 1 in 5, down to 1 in 10. The Lodge Hall, the block group. The card game that used to own weeknight. All of it traded in for a feed. A pane of glass that plays the part of a community while quietly guaranteeing one never forms. And the layout of American living cemented it. Suburbs drawn around the car. Detached houses laced together by freeways and retail strips. No pavement underfoot. No plaza. Nowhere to simply exist without paying for the privilege. Garage to workplace to pickup window and back to garage. The only faces you meet are lit from behind by a screen. Then remote work showed up, marketed as liberation, and it poured gas on the whole thing. Here's the twist you wouldn't guess. Full-time work from home actually reports more loneliness than the commute does. Not because the office ran warm. Because the commute strong-armed a few scraps of contact. The barista who's got your order memorized. The neighbor who wonders aloud how your weekend went. Any one of those is nearly nothing. Stacked up over months, they hand the brain a thing it truly runs on. The plain sense that other people know you're there. Notice how threadbare that line has gotten. Someone will tell you a friend lives 3 houses off. 8 weeks pass with not a word between them. No falling out. Just nothing. The slow drift of an outreach that never quite happens. Distance isn't clocked in miles now. It's clocked in the calls you swore you'd make and let go. Strip that contact away, and the brain shifts. The zone that runs empathy powers down. The threat center gets twitchy, so plain social moments start to read as vaguely dangerous. Isolation reshapes you so connection gets harder, which thickens the isolation, which reshapes you further still. On its own, that loop never breaks. And here's the part that outweighs the rest. A person meeting hardship with others around them tends to come out the far side. That same person meeting it alone often doesn't. Isolation isn't one more item on the symptom list. It's the ground every other trouble here takes root in. Now, everyone under 35. The story about them gets told wrong nearly every time. It isn't sloth. It isn't entitlement. It isn't some vanished work ethic. It's a level-headed reaction to solid numbers. Picture a young woman. Call her Priya, 22, wrapping up a degree, hauling $86,000 in student loans. She's firing off applications for entry jobs and drawing auto rejections from systems she'll never once talk to. So she does the arithmetic because doing the arithmetic is what her whole cohort does. She looks up home prices in the kind of city her degree was supposed to open. The middle-priced home there wants a household pulling $110,000. The middle household actually pulls $81,000. She looks up child care, $15,000 to $25,000 a year, before a bite of food or a dime of coverage. She finds the USDA's tally for raising one kid to 18. $300,000. And she says it plainly. She has no idea what she's even aiming at. Anyone over 40 hears that and files it as attitude. It isn't attitude. It's addition and subtraction. For generation after generation, the deal read simply: work hard, earn the degree, land the job, buy the house, raise the family, build a life. Every rung on that ladder used to bear weight. Look at it now. The degree is a loan with a diploma stapled on. Hiring just logged its second worst year since 2008. The house sits out of range for a middle earner. And a family at $300,000, a kid is a sum that flatly won't balance. Priya's parents never met these figures. A diploma bought a job with a pension attached. A degree bought an actual career. 10 years of work bought the down payment on a home that gained value as you slept. Every dependable link between effort and payoff has been severed. So here's the line nobody wants to say out loud. Priya's cohort didn't flunk the contract. They read it closely. And when the contract in your hand is stopped paying out, stepping back isn't a failing. It's the last clear-eyed move on the board. Their stepping back doesn't wear the look of a march. It wears the look of the fog. A thumb on a feed instead of a hand on a project. Watching instead of doing. But don't read it as giving up. Underneath, a lot of them aren't broken at all. They're just finished pretending the old sums still add. And here's what the ones wagging fingers keep failing to see. Walking away from a rigged deal is not the same act as abandoning your life. Two different moves. One is surrender. The other is refusing to keep pouring yourself into a machine that quit paying you. The sleight of hand the system needs is to make those two look identical. They aren't. You can quit honoring a contract that betrayed you, and still swing with all you have at the one thing it can't reach. What you make of the hours, still yours. And I don't say that to dress up dropping out. Lying flat forever isn't freedom either. It's the same trap with a mellower face on it. The move that actually works threads between both edges. You stop overpaying a system that crushed you, and you steer whatever you claw back. Your attention, your money, your energy toward the small ring of things you can genuinely move. That's not surrender, and it's not grind till you drop. It's the quiet middle lane the machine is praying you never find. Now watch how the three engines interlock. Because not one of them works solo, and that's precisely the point. The reward heist drains the color out of ordinary pleasure. So you grab the manufactured kind the machine happens to be selling. The money strain devours your bandwidth, so thinking past the next due date becomes impossible. The flood of information makes every problem feel both urgent and hopeless at once, and the isolation locks the door. Suppose you did piece the whole thing together. You'd still have no one at your shoulder to move with. 330 million people. Too flat to feel much. Too tapped out to think past the week. Too cut off to find one another. Each engine handing fuel to the next. And let me be honest about what this is. It's not a conspiracy. No one sketched it on a whiteboard. In a way, that's the darker read. It's just profit motives and numbers that pile up. They fell into an arrangement that behaves like a cage. No villain needed. Only incentives, running with no brake pedal. Which is tougher to fight than any cabal. You can't slap cuffs on an incentive. But you can quit feeding it, and that's the hinge this all turns on. Before the doing, I had to head off a thought. It's likely forming right now. It runs about like this. This is too vast. Too woven into the structure. Too deep to leave a mark on. Nothing I try lands against all that. Hear this cleanly. You didn't reason your way into that thought. It's the product. It's the thing the whole apparatus is built to slip inside you. It even carries a name. The psychologists call it learned helplessness, the conviction that a giant problem demands a giant answer or your answer doesn't register. That is flatly not how any of this behaves. The fog doesn't clear in one sweep. It never did. It clears in small lifts. It clears when you cook from real ingredients. When a plate your own hands made lands in front of you, and the brain answers to something no industry built to drain you. It clears when the phone goes in a drawer for a couple of hours, when you sit somewhere quiet and catch that the birds are still there, that the dusk light does a thing to the sky no screen has ever pulled off. It clears when you rap on a neighbor's door and own that it's been too long. You catch the flicker of surprise, then the softening, and you sense that door hasn't taken a knock in months. Half a minute of that repairs more wiring than 96 phone taps ever will. None of these patches the structure. I won't dress them up as if they do. They don't stand in for the organizing to pressure the real overhaul this country needs. But they're the thing that has always come first. One person, awake. I know the question sitting in your chest right now. It's the one that shows up under every video like this. Fine. You named the trap. So how do we actually get out? The straight answer is there's no single lever. But there is an order of operations. It starts by refusing the lie that your moves are too small to register. From there, you reclaim attention first, money next, time after that, in that sequence. One chosen act at a time. That's not a slogan. It's a procedure, and it begins tonight. So here's the actual ask. Not next week. Tonight. Set the phone somewhere out of your sightline. Make something to eat. Message one person you've let drift too far. No repair job attached, just to tell them they came to mind. Park yourself somewhere quiet for 10 minutes with nothing feeding it. Put down one honest sentence about how you're really doing. Want a small money move to run alongside it? Find one subscription you barely touch. Kill it and root that $15 a month into a drawer on the counter. Nothing showy. Just a single dollar the machine stops getting, aimed back at you. None of this settles a structural crisis. I won't cheapen your time by claiming it does. But every large change this country has ever pulled off began the same way, with people awake enough to want it. That's the piece no algorithm can touch. No lobbying war chest can smother it. No extraction machine, however finely tuned, can pry it out of you. You reach the end of this. Something easier sat one swipe off the entire time. You stayed anyway. That says a thing the machine would rather keep from you. The caring is still in there. Buried, not deleted. The haze thins one honest act at a time. Never in a rush. More the way Daybreak works. So gradual you can't catch it moving. And then you glance up, and the whole sky has already changed.